Hello again. Let's begin from Parliament, where members of the House have been trading jabs in a passionate debate over the terrorist attacks in Burkina Faso, which left 8 Ghanaian tomato traders dead. The minority in Parliament demanded immediate parliamentary probe and compensation for the family of the victims. Listen to Ranking Member on the Foreign Affairs Committee, Samuel Abujinapo, and his deputy, Nana Asafwe-Aye.
The minority demands the following: an immediate parliamentary inquiry into the circumstance surrounding this tragedy, including whether prior intelligence warning existed and what steps, if any, were taken to protect Ghanaian traders operating in high-risk zones. 2, full compensation and state support for the families of the deceased and the injured.
Immediately, the president of Burkina Faso, General Ibrahim Traoré, became a special guest at the inauguration of President Mahama. And I'm not saying it. Security experts indicated, Mr. Speaker, that Ghanaians were going to become targets. And indeed, these traders, Mr. Speaker, let's ask ourselves the fundamental question. These traders are not combatants. These traders do not play any role in the conflict in Burkina Faso.
And NDC MP Samuel Atamils criticized the New Patriotic Party for sinking huge sums of monies into the failed Poualougu irrigation dam, which was to develop irrigation to help tomato farming communities.
Your former flag bearer, who's now your new flag bearer, went on TV and said the best thing he has ever done in the north was the Poualougu Dam. This Poualougu Dam was supposed to help us irrigate some land. We spent $12 million US, and we don't have anything to show. If this dam has been built, we would have been able to grow our tomatoes up north.
Kweku Asante is our resident correspondent in Parliament and is joining me on Zoom with more. Kweku, the minority took offense and protested the remarks afterwards. Tell us more.
Well, yes, just as Samuel Atamils was on his feet making that point, Alexander Afenyo-Markin had also shut up, insisting that those were not comments that should be allowed to go into the record because the terrorist attack in Burkina Faso has absolutely nothing to do with the Poualougu multi-purpose dam, for which reason he insisted that those comments ought to be withdrawn, or those comments were going to degenerate the House into some sort of chaos of sort. Listen to Minority Leader Alexander Afenyo-Markin making that point on the floor.
The honorable member who is a majority leader is a lawyer, and he knows I challenge him to come out with any evidence to suggest or point to a person who has abused any so-called man. Mr. Speaker, his party is in government. Where is their 24-hour economy? Where is the one job, 3 shifts? Sing it, Poualougu. Poualougu, yes. Again, sing, yes. Poualougu, yes. Poualougu, keep singing. Sing Poualougu, because if you create jobs in Poualougu, it will help the poor in that part of the region.
Kweku, how did the majority leader respond?
The majority leader doubled down on the demands or the claims that have been made by Samuel Atamils on this matter and said that the NPP cannot claim not to have mismanaged funds that were meant for the Poualougu multi-purpose dam. The point the NDC making on this subject is that Ghanaian tomato traders would not have had to go to Burkina Faso to bring in tomato if their farms were irrigated for local cultivation of tomato. Listen to the majority leader double down on these same comments.
If the Poualougu multi-purpose dam had been constructed, the women would not be going to Burkina Faso. When you take $12 million to do irrigation for them, do the irrigation. You don't chop the money. You chop the money and drove the women into Burkina Faso to buy tomatoes. And they went and died there. And you want to come and do politics in this chamber.
Right, Kweku, what else is happening in Parliament today?
Well, the business statement has just been presented. A number of issues have come up. We now have full confirmation. The president will be addressing Parliament. The State of the Nation address exactly a week from today at 10 o'clock a.m. in Parliament. A couple of issues have been raised from the business statement about a couple of these statements. The minority did not get this parliamentary proof that they were demanding because the majority shut it down ultimately. It has come up again on the floor. A couple of minority MPs, as you see, already talking about the lack of a substantive minister, just as they have in the course of the week. So it's become a little bit of a political footballing game with both sides making the point that they think inure to their political score. Kenneth.
Kweku Asante reports to us from Parliament. Thank you. Away from the House of Legislature, traders and shoppers at the Agbogboloshi market are operating in conditions that sanitation advocates warn could spark a disease outbreak. In the latest phase of the Joy Clean Ghana campaign, our team discovered heavily choked drains filled with waste, stagnant water, and visible infestation of maggots and cockroaches just meters away from where food is sold. My colleague Stephen Mensah has more.
It may be a fluke that you get sick quite often. It may be due to this, the poor state or the poor nature of the Agbogboloshi market. This is where some traders say to ply their trade. Right here, infested with cockroaches. For these traders, they argue that they do not have anywhere to sit to ply their trade.
They should give us a place to sit. We are villagers. This is where we sit and offload our goods after returning from our trip to the village. I sell oil here. My friend sells cassava here. If things continue like this, I doubt we will vote when there is an election.
The traders earlier clashed with the Accra Metropolitan Assembly's Public Health Task Force during an attempt to enforce sanitation and decongestion measures.
Come back here, say, me rock back, the Lord come over here. But if you come, the Lord to here that way, they don't get for the roadside. See now? Master,
listen to, you see, the road and the gutter and the pavement is not for you.
I know.
Are you getting me? So you are not allowed to operate on these areas that are mentioned right now.
If you not say, if you back
the first time.
Director of Public Health at the Accra Metropolitan Assembly, Florence Kuchi, tells JoyNews that authorities have given traders ample notice to relocate, citing the unhealthy and hazardous conditions under which they operate.
This is Agbogboloshi market. It is one of the largest markets in Accra or in Ghana. It's a bulk-breaking market. And there are a lot of traders in the market here. But we don't have a lot of stalls. People have stalls inside. Nobody is supposed to use, initially nobody was supposed to sell behind the dwarf wall. But now we have seen that there are a lot of people who don't even have a place to sell their things.
From the Agbogboloshi market here in Accra, I am Stephen Mensah for JoyNews.
Let's get talking, and joining me is the Metro Public Health Director, Florence Kuchi. Madam Kuchi, welcome to the program. Has this issue come to your attention, first of all?
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, Kojo. Yes, please, it has come to my attention. Yes.
And what is the AMA doing about it?
Okay, thank you very much. As I said, it has come to my attention. That is why we are trying to remove the traders from the drain. As they display for sale their things on the drain, when the drain cleansers officers get there, it becomes difficult for them to clean the drain. And they are the same people who push their trade residuals inside the drain. They are the same people who urinate and pour it inside the drain and still display for sale the things under that insanitary condition. It is not just about cockroaches alone. It is not just about maggots alone. It's about rodents. It's about rats. And we all know that rodents are disease carriers organisms. Cockroaches are disease carriers organisms. And if these women keep applying their trade on the drains by the insanitary condition as it is not going to help people who go to the market to plow or to purchase food products to send it to the house. Mostly what I say is, in the market, a trader's hand can either protect the food or hamper health. So as much as we are public health officials, our main mandate is to ensure that the market is clean. where food is being displayed for sale is clean so that people don't go to the market and go home sick.
And how long have some of these traders been there?
In fact, these traders have been there since I came into Accra Metropolitan Assembly in around 2020. And since 2020, AMA has been collaborating with Joy for this Joy Clean Ghana campaign. But the issue, or one of the reasons we were not chopping successes, were that we did not have a court in the Accra Metropolitan Assembly itself. Where we used to go for court was very far, and looking at the proximity, you arrest the women, taking them there up and down becomes a problem. So most of the time, they used to come and write undertaking, they will not go and display there, then they go back and display there. But with the court, that the existence of the court in Accra Metropolitan Assembly, we can all attest that now what we are doing is yielding very great results. Even the traffic flow alone is something. And now, the women there, what they say is, if they send you to Accra Metropolitan Assembly, they are sending you to court, and there's nothing you can do. So when you get there, some even try to even create as if they are collapsing, just to create a public sympathy for people to say that what we are doing is no good. But as others are blaming us, others are also praising us, telling us that what we are doing is very good. And believe you me, when you go to a grocery market now, you will not get about, I can tell you about 80% of traders are now being cautious about where they fly their trade, just within this January and February. And I know that from now till the end of the first quarter, we are going to chop the success that we are all looking for.
And Florence, as you mentioned, these women, some of them have been there for years. Usually the excuse is that when you move them away from there, where are they going to? Has a place been made available for them to relocate to?
Okay, it is not just purely about relocation. Some of these traders, they have shops inside the market, and they leave their shops and come and display for sale their things by the roadside.
Right.
So you saw the dwarf wall. Initially, nobody was supposed to display for sale any item at the back of the dwarf wall. Everybody was supposed to be inside the market. But due to a population increase in the market, people are trooping into the market, and people must sell. That is why we are saying that anybody who displays for sale, who use the back of the dwarf wall as a store, we will take the thing and prosecute the person, because you cannot take a shop inside and then you use the back of the dwarf wall where somebody can display for sale their things as a store. So now we are decongesting all the back of the dwarf wall, and we are asking people who will display for sale their things on the street to move to the dwarf wall so that they don't even display for sale their things on the drain. If they move to the dwarf wall, we will be able to remove all the pallets on the drain so that the drain collecting units can have access to the drain, and the drain will also be cleaned always to prevent the multiplication of the rats, the maggots, and the cockroaches that we are seeing now.
Apart from the Agbogboloshi market, are there similar incidents in other markets within the AMA?
Yes, we have the CND market, and then we have the London market. But what we want to do is we don't want to be jumping from one place to one place. We want to make sure that what we are doing, we have achieved a successful goal there. We have made sure that everybody is doing what we have asked the person to do. Everybody is at the right place. Then we will move to another area, because food safety at the market side is very bad. Even at the market, after the road, when we are done with people telling them how to display for sale their things at the back of the dwarf wall in front of the drain, we are going into the market to also crack down people who are buying rotten tomatoes, rotten pepper and onions, and are sending them to the mill to go and mill and come and cook for people to eat. So we have a lot of work to do inside the Agbogbloshie market.
Right. Florence Kuchi, thank you very much. She is the Public Health Director at the Accra Metropolitan Assembly. And this afternoon, it's Ghana versus Togo, not on the football pitch, but over a maritime boundary dispute. Well, the government says it is referring the matter to international arbitration under the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea after nearly a decade of stalled bilateral talks. In a statement, officials say the decision is aimed at preventing further tensions and avoiding potential incidences between state institutions of the two countries operating in the disputed waters. My colleague James Aveji has more.
This is on the sea, the border between Ghana and Togo. But just to refresh our memories, there was a similar case between Ghana and Ivory Coast, which had been settled just a few years ago under the previous government, where Ghana had which was eventually, that matter between the two countries was eventually taken to the International Tribunal of the Law of the Sea, ITLOS. The tribunal ruled largely in Ghana's favor in that particular case, and the dispute area covered parts of Ghana's Jubilee oil field, the Thane area oil field, and other offshore exploration blocks. And so that was the decision. The only difference is that this particular issue we're talking about between Ghana and Togo has not been taken to ITLOS, but rather the United Nations Court of the Law of the Sea instead of the International Arbitration Court. And so the current situation, however, we've been trying to track down if there's any history around it. There's no available public data yet on any evidence confirming the presence of oil in the disputed region that is being litigated now. It is rumored that there is oil in that region which might be fueling the dispute between the two countries. That said, the maritime boundaries are not only about oil. There are also other significant economic activities in such areas, particularly fishing by persons of these two countries, which is vital for the livelihood and food security of both Ghana and Togo. And so that's the available data we have now around it, and I'm sure subsequent information would give us more details on why the two countries are in loggerheads and why the two are dragging this between each other.
That's my colleague James Aveji there. Well, this is a report by JoyNews detailing aspects of the meeting between the two countries in a bid to resolve the matter.
The 11th meeting of the joint Ghana-Togo Maritime Boundary Delimitation Technical Committee was held at the Labadi Beach Hotel in Accra. National Coordinator of the Ghana Boundary Commission, Major General Emmanuel Kotia, described the meeting successful and says the two countries are getting closer to signing the Maritime Boundary Delimitation Agreement.
But we also emphasize that once the agreement is signed, it will dovetail to most of the issues around the disputed area resolved automatically. So our emphasis and our priority is for us to resolve this issue as soon as possible. And since the Joint Committee has been meeting since 2018, we think that the progress that we have made is very tremendous, and we are almost reaching the tipping point apart from some very few issues that we need to resolve. These discussions have been made in the spirit and tenets of negotiation. Ghana is committed to a negotiated settlement of the dispute, the maritime dispute between Ghana and Togo. And we hope that we should be able to meet this within the first quarter of next year, if not earlier. We also want to commit that once an agreement is signed, this committee would continue to meet regularly at least twice a year. So far as the maritime boundary issues are concerned, Ghana is cooperating with Togo very well, and we have progressed very fast so far as reaffirmation is concerned. And I'm happy to tell you that we have reaffirmed over 200 kilometers between Ghana and Togo this year. And that is progress.
Togo's presidential advisor and deputy chief negotiator Stanislas Baba says he's hopeful a maritime boundary delimitation agreement which will bring an end to the dispute over the ocean boundary of the two countries will be signed next year.
It's a matter of preserving the peace both in Togo and Ghana. It is also a matter of respecting the interests of Togo and Ghana. But everything is going well. Our discussions are, I would say, very cool, and we are talking in the spirit of brotherhood. And I think maybe next year the time will come to sign.
Joining me on Zoom right now is the former Commissioner General of the Ghana Boundary Commission, Major General Emmanuel Wikem Kotia. Grateful for your time this afternoon, Major General. Bring us up to speed with the background to this issue. How did we really get here?
Good afternoon. Good afternoon to your viewers. Looking at the start of these talks, Togo decided not to recognize the international maritime boundary that has been in existence or recognized by the two countries for over 60 years. Now, once that was done, the head of states of the two countries decided to meet sometime in 2017 and decided that in order to resolve this issue, there should be a joint technical committee made of Togo and Ghana to meet and resolve all the technical details of the issues that have been raised by Togo. Now, these meetings went on up to the 11th to the 12th meeting. And despite the fact that progress were made in certain areas, we couldn't resolve the issue that will lead us to sign an agreement. Therefore, the Ghana team, the Ghana Boundary Commission decided that since there was a stalemate in the talks, it should be escalated to the level of the presidents, those who initiated the move of the joint committee. So that was what was done, and the two presidents met sometime in July 2022 in the presence of cabinet ministers responsible for those fields and 10 members of the Ghana Boundary Commission. Some kind of agreement was reached between the two presidents, but then the implementation was not forthcoming, especially from the Togo side. So I believe that this stalemate led to the current development where the Ghana government has served notice for international arbitration.
Right. And what economic importance does the area hold that warrants this dispute?
A lot of economic importance. First of all, some areas have been marked for oil exploration. There are rumors, not yet confirmed, that there's some deposits of oil in that area, especially along the Keita Basin.
Right.
Additionally, a lot of fishing activities take place in that area. And then we also know that there are a lot of river transport activities that cuts across the two countries in that particular area. Now, what happened was, as a way of goodwill to the sharing of goodwill to the Togolese government, the Ghana government decided that they would discontinue with the exploration in the Keita Basin. Most part of the Keita Basin, that exploration could have gone on, that is not closer to the disputed area. So as a matter of goodwill, the Ghana government decided that let's suspend this so that we'll see a negotiated settlement of the dispute before we could go on with exploration at the Keita Basin. So that was the goodwill gesture that the Ghana government extended to Togo so far as the Keita Basin area was concerned.
Right. And it's referring the matter to international arbitration under the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, the right step, you'd say?
I think there is I think that at this stage it is the right step, because the ball was now in the court of the Togolese to come forth based on the agreement reached by the two head of states for action to be taken. And I can tell you that the next stage that was supposed to take place after the two head of states met was an agreement. There was a draft agreement that was prepared, and there was a draft map that was prepared, so that the two presidents would have ascended to it at that stage. But then this never came on based on the statement that one cannot explain.
Right. And what is the likely impact on Ghana's relationship with our eastern neighbor, Togo?
Once there's an international arbitration, right, I don't think that there will be any problem. The same thing happened and the same fears were expressed when we went to International Tribunal of the Law of the Sea on the Ghana-Cote d'Ivoire maritime boundary. And now we have the best of relationship. What the two presidents wanted to avoid was that they knew that for Ghana and Togo, we are much closer culturally, ethnically, and in the various ways, tribal and intermarriages and what have you. So they wanted to avoid a situation where probably there will be a gap between Ghana and Togo. But once it goes to international arbitration, I think that both countries would abide by whatever decision is taken.
Major General, don't go yet. Let me bring in international relations expert, Dr. Ishmael Hlover. Dr. Hlover, welcome to the program. What do you make of the latest development in our dispute with our neighbors, Togo?
Thank you, and good afternoon to your viewers. I think that is just a follow-up on a series of things that have happened along that border. And I think at this point, once the settlement negotiation process...
Dr. Hlover, if you can kindly speak up for me.
Okay, hello?
Yes, much better.
Is it better? Okay. So I'm saying that it's just the escalation of the dispute in that region. Once negotiated settlement is not yielding results, it becomes very important that the two countries, particularly Ghana, take it up to that international level and get a settlement before any further exploration and any other activities. That helps to avoid any future escalating in tensions, because often there are a lot of activities are ongoing in that area. There are fishermen, there are security agencies who are engaged. So you want to get it settled as quickly as possible so that any development of the area will not be contended by other parties. So I think that it's a natural progression where you have a negotiating and it's not going anywhere. You then move to arbitration and get some solutions from there.
Why do you think this dispute has taken almost a decade to be resolved?
From the former director of the boundary committee, you can clearly see that there seems to be an attempt on the part of the Togolese to drag their feet. For whatever reason, I can't explain that one, but you can clearly see that perhaps given the technicalities of those issues, the negotiations were not going in much more in favor of the Togolese as they would have envisaged. And so when it happens like that, one of the things you can do is to drag the negotiations as long as you can and frustrate the other party. So I think maybe that's the position the Togolese have adopted. And so in that case, Ghana has no choice than to move up to international arbitration.
And of course, this can take years, running into decades before this issue is resolved. Would you propose Ghana taking the diplomatic route, engaging with our eastern neighbors diplomatically?
Of course, the diplomatic route has already been taken. As you have seen, it has been a long period of negotiation. In as much as diplomacy works, you can't continue negotiation forever. It's a point at which you realize that it's a breaking point, and then you have to make a decision, and that decision has been made. That does not automatically translate to a break up of diplomatic negotiation. You can continue the two processes side by side, so that even preparing for the ruling, the two countries have to engage. They must come to certain understanding that whichever way the ruling will go, they must respect it and accept it. They must also continue diplomatic engagement because as the issue has gone to this level, you don't want comment, you don't want public statement that inflame passions, that inflame other side of to the dispute. You also want to ensure that there's still negotiation in other parts relating to Ghana-Togo relations, so that this one is seen as purely a technical issue, so that it doesn't spread to areas that we have common interests like trade, like others. So yes, there will always be continued diplomatic engagement, even as we are pursuing this through the international arbitration channel. You must still continue to engage with them diplomatically and then prepare the ground for a virtual ruling that may come.
Dr. Ishmael Holova is an international relations expert. Thank you very much. I still have Major General Emmanuel Kotia with me on the phone lines. Major General, I want to pick your final thoughts before we wrap up.
That Ghana should pursue the international arbitration routes. At the same time, we could open up an avenue for diplomatic engagement if the Togolese are willing and genuinely want to engage, because the issue has always been the problem from the Togolese. And I think that once that channel is opened, we can continue with the arbitration. And if whatever ruling that is given in arbitration, then using diplomatic channels, we can use that to be able to resolve other issues that make other challenges that may be associated to the implementation of the arbitration results.
Major General retired Emmanuel Kotia, glad you could join me this afternoon. He's the former Commissioner General of the Ghana Boundary Commission and also a security analyst. Now, Chair of ECOWAS Ministers responsible for gender, Dr. Issata Mahoy, has expressed optimism that the region can meet its 2035 targets on the inclusion of women and vulnerable groups in politics, where she believes coordinated national strategies, data-driven monetary systems, and stronger intergenerational inclusion aligned with continental frameworks such as the African Union's Agenda 2063 will be critical to achieving the goal. Dr. Mahoy was speaking exclusively to my colleague Stephen Mensah on the sidelines of the regional consultation on women's political participation currently underway in Accra.
We'll bring you the updates as to the conversations about women in politics and the marginalized or the vulnerable groups in politics. Right about now, and I have the Minister for Gender for Sierra Leone, Dr. Issata Mahoy. Thank you so much for joining us. You're welcome to Ghana.
Thank you.
How has Ghana treated you so far?
So good, so good. This is not my first time actually. I've been coming here most of the time because I used to work for an agency, OneUp. So I used to come here almost all the time.
I'd want to zoom in straight into the conversation about women in politics. The conversation so far has been that you are not really included in the whole conversations about politics in the sub-region.
So, I mean, data can speak for itself. We've seen that women make up over half of the population of the West African region. And for this, we were open or thinking that women should be at the forefront when it comes to being in politics or decision-making or leadership positions. But the present context is far from that. Although countries are doing very well, some countries are moving up, so others are catching up. Others are still very slow when it comes to positioning their women in decision-making processes.
You are here in Ghana for the conversations about ECOWAS and women in... How has the conversation been so far?
Oh, well, the conversation went very well because I think we made the right time, the right choice to come here to Ghana. It's no secret that we chose Ghana because, of course, you know, your president is a leader for she and is paving the way for women. So we came here to discuss and make recommendations to ECOWAS on how the women and young people's agenda should be shaped between now and 2035. Because we know that women are the future. We know that without women and young people in the discussion, political discussion, it will not breed very good results in Africa, in West Africa specifically. But we're happy, in fact, for Ghana to get the first vice president who is female now. It means countries are making heads. And I think that other countries will follow soon. Also, for us in Sierra Leone, because I'm representing my country as the Minister for Gender and Children's Affairs, we have made progress because we took affirmative actions. There's a quota for women, 30% quota, and which we have achieved that well. But we want to see how we promote parity and equality in Sierra Leone. And this is what we are also praying for other countries. We have the Gender Equality and Women's Empowerment Act, which has given the premise for women to be in decision-making processes. In Parliament, we used to have like 12.5% or 12.3%, and now we have 30%. In Cabinet, we have many women, 10 women out of 28 women, and then we have deputy ministers, 13. So you see, for me, I think we're making progress. We just need to push a little further, get the right laws, and implement those laws. It will help us.
It's interesting you talk about the quotas and the recommendations also. Here in Ghana, there's a research that shows that political parties are not favoring the women. Is it the same in your country also?
Oh yes, it used to be the same. In fact, till now we're still struggling. In fact, we're in the process of reviewing our national constitution. And in this constitution, we're working with civil society organizations, women-led organizations, to see how we push the women's agenda. Of course, it used to be like that in Sierra Leone, when you hardly find women on decision-making tables. But now you can see them. You see us. Me, I'm a representative of those women, and we get a lot more. So we want to make the women in politics very attractive for women all around West Africa. We want to see how we work together in a very good alliance, being committed in a very coordinated and collaborative way to see how we move the agenda forward. Me being the chair for all Gender and Women Affairs Minister for ECOWAS, we want to pledge our commitment and remain steadfast that we're going to push this agenda so that many other African states or West African states can also copy from examples of Ghana, Sierra Leone, and others who have moved forward.
Another conversation should be about financing for women in politics and also for the youth who will be entering politics. How is that going to go about?
For me, I think it is a very critical one because you can empower women with their rights all you want, but without the economic empowerment, the financial empowerment, it is difficult for them to be able to assert their rights, to advocate for those rights and maintain and get a position in the political sphere. The reason being that when you are economically or financially empowered, you are able to speak up without violence. So people now can link you up with authority, because when there is no financial aspect that you have or economic empowerment, then they say, who are you? What do you want to become? You don't have anything to show. So this is why empowering women financially is part of the game. In fact, inside our Gender Equality and Women's Empowerment Act, one of the main clauses is financial inclusion. And this is what our government is looking at presently, working with financial institutions, getting support from World Bank and others, UN Women supporting here and there, so that we get financial inclusion.
And this afternoon, the CDD Ghana has revealed a scoreboard on John Mahama administration, including the good, the bad, and the ugly. The report took into account major incidents in security, corruption, governance, education, health, among others. We'll speak to the CDD shortly for some more analysis. But first, my colleague James Avaji has joined me in studio with highlights of the report. James, I understand the CDD grouped these reports into 6 thematic areas. Run us through.
Exactly. So that's what you have on the screen now. And the first is democracy, governance, human rights, and the rule of law put together into one thematic area. Then you have anti-corruption and accountability, economy and jobs also featured heavily, but also environment and social development, together with foreign affairs and regional integration. And there were some interesting issues raised under this particular one, but the biggest, I consider the biggest issue in that particular report is the analysis of Ghana's performance in terms of defense, security, and peace building, especially when the conversation over the period in the last few days has been about the absence of a substantive defense minister, even though the finance minister, Dr. Cassiel Atuforsen, is performing that duty. So these are the key findings, and the first is the president's decision to cap his ministerial appointment at 60. The CDD believes that this was a good move by the John Dramani Mahama administration, as there's always been, reservations about the large number of government appointees, especially what we saw under the previous administration with over 120 ministers with their deputies. You would also recall that in the first budget of this government, they announced that they are taking off the decapping the District Assembly Common Fund allocation to the various district assemblies across the country. The previous government was doing less than what we see now, 80%, because a lot of contracts at the time were awarded here in Accra and were implemented at the district assembly level. And this government believes that the work must happen at the assembly level. And so they raised that allocation from the DACF here in Accra to the MMDAs to 80% of the entire allocations. So those are some of the goods, the positives under democracy, governance, and human rights the CDD has indicated in this particular report. Those that are challenges, first is the removal of the Chief Justice, Gertrude Tokonu, the big issue about which raised questions about the independence of the judiciary and the other arms of government. That process, another leg of that process is still at the ECOWAS court. They sat on it the other time. There is an agenda which is still dragging in court. The former CJ is trying to fight, especially against her removal, and if she will be entitled to taking her, entitlement as a Chief Justice, former Chief Justice of the Republic. Then is the report of police brutality and arrest for false news also persisting in this government. You remember the journalist who was picked up for publishing a story that was considered as fake news.
Right.
The police and government was condemned because of that. The attack on journalists as well still ongoing. The concern for CDD is about how this is transitioning or moving from ordinary citizens attacking journalists to now security personnel attacking journalists, and how this is denting the image of Ghana in terms of governance and human rights. And finally is the frequent use of the certificate of the certificate of agency in the passing of public or bills in Parliament. This has been a concern. In the last few days, the minority have raised issues about that. They held a press conference to talk about this. The CDD also took note of this. They believe that some of these things will result in the passage of bills, very sensitive bills, that needed time to scrutinize and bring the best out of these bills. But because of the excessive use of this certificate of agency, we may not be doing the best in terms of the passage of laws for the country. And we can now move to the next sector that they have been looking at in terms of this particular analysis, in terms as far as this particular analysis is concerned. Trying to get that for you. But if you look at sectors like education, the CDD have been talking, okay, so I have anti-corruption and accountability. They talk about fined officials 3 months salary for late asset declaration. You remember that issue that came up at the beginning of this government, where the presidency gave a timeline for his appointees to file their assets or to declare their assets, which they were not able to do in time. The president fined them to forfeit part of their salary. They recovered 824 million Ghana cedi from Unibank, and the ghost names pledged at 81,000, which recovery has been done. The president's decision to protect the OSP from parliamentary repeal, asset declarations remain accessible to public verification, which is also one high. And then the government also set a high threshold for gift risking corruption loopholes. That gift threshold is currently at 20,000 Ghana cedis. The CDD believes that it is too high and it will encourage corruption if it is not reviewed downwards to a less figure. The progress on the conduct of public officers bill has been very slow, according to the CDD. There's also in terms of job creation and all of that. And the foreign affairs part, most importantly, talks about the fact that we are appointing politically related persons to occupy, to represent Ghana in other countries instead of, career diplomacy. So these are the major things, including security threats to the country as far as the particular report.
James, thank you very much for bringing us those thematic areas. We can now speak to CDD Ghana's Jacob Ahonu, who is joining us on Zoom with more. Jacob, thank you very much for your time. This afternoon, my colleague James was at your program yesterday and has been providing some details. But I want to find out from you what materials were considered in arriving at this detailed report that you put out.
Thank you. I would like to say good afternoon to your viewers and possibly listeners. For us as CDD, we took into consideration a lot of the details that were picked up were coming from both, not just both, but included the NDC manifesto, the 120-day social contract, the sonars that were delivered by the president. The budget statement was also scrutinized. We also had other platforms that the president had spoken or made promises were all captured. I mean, we brought all this together in order to be able to get a comprehensive document. And we didn't end there. We had the process go through institutional review as well. So we looked at the constitutional body in terms of the constitution, the legislations that we have, and then the accountability institutions plus other agencies, ministries, departments, and agencies that churn out information. We try to scrutinize as much as possible what we can get to be able to come to this conclusion. Again, we added...
Jacob, let's talk about the corruption bit. I'm interested in the corruption bit. How would you score the John Mahama administration's fight against corruption 1 year into this administration?
Thank you for the question. Unfortunately, that was not our focus in terms of scoring using numbers, or better to say, better or worse. Rather, our focus was to document the initiatives that were undertaken by the government, and then looking at the gaps or the path through which this initiative will lead us, as much as looking at the gaps in terms of what they missed to talk about or missed to take actions on. And we decided to put that out there. It is not an assessment where we want to conclusively talk about scoring the government with a figure or a percentage or any other, but rather put out the initiative, the actions, the policies that the government had decided to initiate or start. And look at how and where it will lead us, as well as looking at the gaps in terms of what they left out or did not do right. So basically, these were the focus. So unfortunately, I will not be able to give you a scoring or looking at putting the president in a category, no.
So what were the major successes chalked by President John Mahama during his first term in office when it comes to corruption? Did you find any?
Yes. So definitely, if I noticed your colleague had put out some of the information we had picked up. So one, we believe that the launch of the Code of Conduct for appointees was one of the key initiatives that the government had taken that we believe would inure to the betterment of anti-corruption in the country. But again, when we speak on that, we go to the other side, which is the gap. We already have a Conduct of Public Officers Bill in the OFID, which unfortunately is basically looking like the Right to Information Bill, which took so many years before it got passed. So the idea here is that though this is a good initiative, the battle really is with getting a very comprehensive Conduct of Public Officers Bill into law, which will regulate and make it codify in terms of law. This was an initiative. Any other president could put this aside and do something else. So as much as it's a good initiative, there is something better we could have done in terms of that. Another aspect was the Operation Recover All Loot. The idea from the promises that were given was that this was an initiative that is going to bring in terms of revenue or monies that were stolen from the past government. But if we leave it as it is, and currently that is how it is looking at, the challenge here is that then it means it was mainly focused on the previous government. What happens when issues of corruption or allegations come up in this very present government? What will Oral do? Has Oral's work ended by the submission of their report to the AG or to the president? Those are the gaps we had, but the initiative in its own was a good initiative. We also talked about the withdrawal of the Private Members Bill, which had intended to more like scrap the Office of the Special Prosecution. This, we believe, was a good action taken by the president. But again, on the positive side, that is it. But on the negative side, the fact that you could have members of the ruling government within Parliament taking this action without seeking the executive's approval. So even though we want to say Parliament is independent of the executive, but because they are from the same party, this was sending a bad signal to the anti-corruption fight. Because if, with a super majority, if they had gone ahead, the likelihood of the OSB being scrapped was going to be something that was going to be easy, if you put it that way. But again, the initiative of halting it was positive, and we commend that. But we feel that going forward, a very lasting solution, which was professed by the CRC, that is to combine all the anti-corruption institutions into one, have the commission, Anti-Corruption and Ethics Commission as one that holds constitutional power through the amendment referendum that may come up and the amendment of the constitution to give them the legitimacy, the independence that we call for.
Jacob.
Again,
Jacob, thank you very much for your time this afternoon. Jacob Ahonu is with CDD Ghana. Away from that, Nawoni, a farming community in the Kumbungu district of the northern region, is grappling with devastating floods that have submerged more than 300 acres of farmland cultivated by smallholder farmers. The disaster has left many families scrambling to salvage remnants of their crops, with livelihoods hanging in the balance. Farmers say the situation is not new. For the past 5 years, recurring floods have repeatedly destroyed their harvest, deepening poverty and food insecurity in the area. The following report has more.
The rains have been pouring down for weeks, and the usual quiet farmlands of the Nawoni community look murky with the waters rising high.
We have been able to salvage a few grains, even though the large portion is not ready yet for harvest, but we are compelled to leave the rest.
Mba Abdullahi Zachariah's farm has been submerged. He was not around when the floods occurred, and this morning he's receiving a briefing from his wife on the disaster. Armed with this information, he sets out to visit his farm.
We expected that we would get something this year, and all of a sudden, the floodwaters came and submerged the farm. This year, the cost of a tractor for an acre was 200 Ghana cedis, and my farm was 7 acres. You can imagine the loss.
Climate change expert Mahama Wayo from the Tamale Technical University Faculty of Agriculture and Natural Resource explained the reason behind these floods.
Floods are caused by different factors. The first factor has to do with climate factors. To the extent that we have prolonged rains can cause flood. We have anthropogenic factors. Anthropogenic factors that cause flood include things like people building along waterways.
Mbazakaria and many other farmers in this community have no knowledge.
Apologies for our inability to bring you the full report of that story. Now, climate change remains a major global concern, with experts warning that rapid urbanization and development pressures are intensifying its impact. At a recent climate policy dialogue, stakeholders raised concerns about the difficult balance between economic growth and environmental protection in Ghana. Here's Maxwell Aklobeto's report. You're welcome back. Let's take you back to our earlier story on climate change, which remains a major global concern, with experts warning that rapid urbanization and development pressures are intensifying its impact. At a recent climate policy dialogue, stakeholders raised concerns about the difficult balance between economic growth and environmental protection in Ghana. Maxwell Aklobeto has more.
Climate change, largely driven by human activities such as burning fossil fuels, deforestation, and industrial emissions, has become a major global concern, prompting international conferences and policies aimed at reducing its impact. However, experts say rapid urbanization and the growing push for development are worsening the crisis. Speaking at the Exploring Climate Intervention event, experts pointed at the tensions between development goals and efforts to mitigate climate change. Dr. Naomi Kumi is a senior lecturer in atmospheric and climate science at the University of Energy and Natural Resources.
I see a very big challenge, or let me say difference between, or conflict between climate change and development. We want to develop, we want to build factories, we want to do this, we want to raise our infrastructure to make the city or urban areas clean. By doing so, we are clearing land. And we clearing this land, we are cutting down these trees, and these trees are sucking the carbon dioxide from the atmosphere.
Dr. Nathaniel Bimpong of the Environmental Protection Agency describes the policies aimed at curbing the situation as ones that will be very difficult to implement.
What we do is that we can sort of building short, we can go up here so people can have access. But the question still comes to the fact that those who are coming, they don't have money to, rent those places. So definitely they want to also use that end. So it is very difficult.
Dr. Francis Nkrumah of the Physics Department of the University of Cape Coast stressed the need for Ghana to amplify its voice in global efforts to mitigate the effects of climate change.
Expose people to a new idea in climate change science called climate engineering or climate intervention. So the idea is about how we are going to look at technologies that can be effected to reduce the warming of the globe.
As the debate over development and climate action continues, experts say Ghana must strike a careful balance between economic growth and environmental protection to safeguard its future. For JoyNews, Maxwell Aklobeto's report. Back to you.
That's it for today's edition of The Pulse. My name is Kenneth Jesse. Thank you very much for being a part of the show. For more news, you can log on to myjoyonline.com, and there it is. Our top story says President Mahama to deliver State of the Nation address on February 27th. Have a good afternoon and enjoy the rest of your weekend.